Welcome to FNAF Explained. It's going to be made for two audiences. People who are new to the series. People who want the story explained to them and want it explained in a way that's quick, understandable, and to the point. But there's another audience that this is for, and that is older FNAF fans. And that's going to be where I delve deep into some of the deeper mysteries and hopefully things that haven't really been talked about before in the series. Stuff like unsolved mysteries, stuff like new concepts and ideas, and stuff like going further down in the series and just getting into the nitty-gritty of things. And I think it's going to be interesting for both groups of people. But okay, let's get to the video. Cue the intro, please. Hey, welcome back to FNAF Explained, Episode 2, where we're going to be talking about FNAF 2. It's pretty simple. As always, with a simple description of this game. It's very simple to the first game, FNAF 1. You're in an office, a security office of a pizzeria called Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. Only this time, it's the new and improved Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. So, obviously, they've made some improvements, they've made things a whole lot better, and they've also given you absolutely no doors to protect yourself whatsoever. So that's great. This time we're joined with a whole new cast of characters, including the old characters from the previous game. We've got Withered Freddy, Withered Bonnie, Withered Chica, and Withered Foxy. And we've got a new cast of characters, the toy animatronics, featuring Toy Freddy, Toy Bonnie, Toy Chica, and Mangle, who was originally, it seems, intended to be a Toy Foxy, but I mean, that didn't exactly work out. We'll get to that in a bit. There's also the Puppet, Balloon Boy, and a few Easter egg characters who really don't mean much in the series, and of course, Golden Freddy makes an appearance again. So, as you can see, the sheer scale of this game is a lot higher than in the first game. There were like 5 characters in that one. In this one, there's over 10, so we've doubled in character size. The first thing to talk about, like right out of the gate, is that this is not a sequel to the original, despite what you may believe. FNAF 2 is actually a prequel. We know this because of many things. For one, at the end of FNAF 1, which I don't think I mentioned because it doesn't affect the story in the end, but Phone Guy, your tutorial character, dies at the very end of the game, and in this game, he's back. So unless he's somehow immortal, this is a prequel. Also, the paycheck you get at the end of the game, if you beat it, matches a year earlier than the first game, where it was 1995. There's a couple other things which we'll get to, but I would like to address the one problem that a lot of people have with this game being a prequel, and that is that the Withered animatronics exist. See, if this game is a prequel, then how could there be withered old versions of the animatronics from the first game? And the answer to this is simple. See, there's been 3 Freddy Fazbear's restaurants. There's the original, with these fun-looking characters you can see to the back of me here. There is the second location, which is the one in this game. And then the third location is the FNAF 1 location, where the old models got completely redesigned, they got fixed up, and then they were sent back out to perform again, which is really creepy, considering that they looked like this for, like, quite a long time, and were just, hanging out in the back of the second location. So, as with the first game, the main story is pretty simple, and I'll talk about it in a second, but the hidden lore behind this game that reveals kind of the deeper story is hidden, 1, in little Easter eggs like the first game, 2, in our phone calls from Phone Guy, and 3, in new 8-bit mini-games, which are very reminiscent of Atari, which would be one of the bigger game consoles at the time, although I believe the NES would have been out as well at the time. Whatever, it doesn't matter. The point is, those are the 3 ways lore will be revealed, but before I get to what's actually going on here, I would like to explain what the game tells you through the phone calls and just kind of through the world building it does before you find any secrets. So, as with the last game, I'm going to play some of the phone calls that are played at the beginning of each night, so you can kind of get an idea of what's going on here.
Hello and welcome to your new summer job at the new and improved Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. I'm here to talk you through some of the things you can expect to see during your first week here and to help you get started down this new and exciting career path. Now, I want you to forget anything you may have heard about the old location, some people still have a somewhat negative impression of the company. That old restaurant was kind of left to rot for quite a while. They've spent a small fortune on these new animatronics. Facial recognition, advanced mobility. They even let them walk around during the day. But most importantly, they're all tied into some kind of criminal database so they can detect a predator a mile away. But when it gets quiet, they think they're in the wrong room. So then they go try to find where the people are, and in this case, that's your office. So our temporary solution is this. There's a music box over by the prize counter, and it's rigged to be wound up remotely. So just every once in a while, switch over to the prize counter video feed and wind it up for a few seconds. It doesn't seem to affect all of the animatronics, but it does affect one of them. And as for the rest of them, we have an even easier solution. You see, there may be a minor glitch in the system, something about robots seeing you as an endoskeleton without a costume on and wanting to stuff you into a suit. So hey, we've given you an empty Freddy Fazbear head. Problem solved. I'm sure you've noticed the older models sitting in the back room. Those are from the previous location, and we just use them for parts now. The idea at first was to repair them. They even started retrofitting them with some of the newer technology, but they were just so ugly, and the smell. So the company decided to just go in a whole new direction and make them super kid-friendly. One more thing. Don't forget the music box. I'll be honest, I never liked that puppet thing. It's always thinking, and it can go anywhere. They tried to remake Foxy, They thought the first one was too scary, so they redesigned them to be more kid-friendly and put them in Kids Cove to keep the toddlers entertained, But kids these days just can't keep their hands to themselves. The staff literally had to put Foxy back together at the end of every shift. Eventually, they just stopped trying and left him as some kind of take-apart, put-back-together attraction. Now he's just a mess of parts. I think the employees refer to him as just the mangle. You know how these local stories come and go and seldom mean anything. I can personally assure you that whatever is going on out there, however tragic it may be, has nothing to do with our establishment. It's just all rumor and speculation, people trying to make we may end up having to close for a few days, I don't know. I want to emphasize, though, that it's really just a precaution. But try to avoid eye contact with any of the animatronics tonight if you can. Someone may have tampered with their facial recognition systems. We're not sure. But the characters have been acting very unusual, almost aggressive toward the staff. They interact with the kids just fine, but when they encounter an adult, they just stare. From what I understand, the building is on lockdown. No one is allowed in or out, especially concerning any previous employees. When we get it all sorted out, we may move you to the day shift. A position just became available. We don't have a replacement for your shift yet, but we're working on it. We're going to try to contact the original restaurant owner. I think the name of the place was Fredbear's Family Diner or something like that. It was closed for years, though. I doubt we'll be able to track anybody down. Hello. What on earth are you doing there? Didn't you get the memo? The place is closed down, at least for a while. Someone used one of the suits. We had a spare in the back, a yellow one. Someone used it. Now none of them are acting right.
Alright, so the supposed reason that the animatronics are attacking in this game is because of their criminal database, which is inside of their systems. Basically, they're supposed to be able to detect if a criminal is nearby, which is backfiring because now they're seeing you as a criminal. Why this is, we'll get to in a second. Let's touch on a few other things first. One other thing to note, and basically the first thing Phone Guy tells us, is that people already have a very negative impression of this company because of something that happened at the first location, where these animatronics love doing that. I love just being able to, like, gesture behind me, like, yeah, these guys, where these guys were performing. Something bad happened. It's explained later in the game, but for now, you're kind of left wondering, okay, what could that be, and how does it affect me? This is likely why the animatronics were given their criminal databases, so they can tell, just so they can make sure that nothing bad happens here again. It doesn't work. Now, in the last video, I promised we'd get some answers to the questions that were left dangling at the end of that video. If I remember correctly, those would be the Bite of 87, which I never revealed who did it, and Golden Freddy, and I'm hoping to solve both of those in this video. First of all, the Bite of 87. So, actually, if you take a look at the paycheck you get at the end of the game, it's revealed that this would be the perfect amount of pay for 1987. So who actually is the victim of the Bite of 87? Some people say it's someone who was at one of the birthday parties during this time. Some people say it was you, the night guard, which seems to be the accurate theory, considering the fact that, actually, if you take a close look at, again, the paycheck you receive at the end of the game and the one you get after the bonus 6th and 7th night, the name actually changes. In the first 5 nights, you are this handsome lad, and in the next 2 nights, you are this guy. Yeah, so, I mean, seems like a very random decision for Scott to make until you realize that could mean that Jeremy Fitzgerald was the Bite of 87 victim, and that's why he doesn't come back to work the next day. As I said in the last video, I don't think the Bite of 87 is meant to have any implications for the lore. I think that it's just kind of meant to be a throwaway gag, but this could be who it was. In the end, it doesn't really have any connections to other lore. It's just its own little event that doesn't really connect to anything else. Now it's time to delve into the main mysteries of this game. Who is the killer? Who is the one responsible for the possession of these animatronics, which is something that we've been wondering since the first game. And how do these animatronics come to be possessed in the first place? Along the way, we'll solve a few other smaller mysteries, but those are the main things we're looking to solve in this video. So, first of all, what's the story here? Can we get a first-hand look at the possession of these animatronics? And it turns out, yes, we can, in the form of the 8-bit minigames I mentioned earlier. Today I'm going to go over each of the minigames and talk to you about what they mean. So, first of all, I have some notes here, so pardon me if I'm looking down all the time. So pardon me if I keep glancing down. It's a lot to remember, as you'll soon see. The first minigame is... So first we have the most played minigames, which occur sometimes when you die in the game. This is called the Save Them minigames, where you're one of the main 4 animatronics, and it looks like one of the original animatronics, and you're following the puppet around. Remember how I said the puppet was going to be important? Yeah, I was right, shocker. You wander through the darkened restaurant, and it looks abandoned. There's rain dripping from the ceiling, and no one is here, and it looks like it's the nighttime because, well, it's dark. At the end of the minigame, Purple Guy, who is this little guy, comes out, and on the screen flashes the words, "You can't." Save them, you can't. More on that later. So who is this purple man? Well, important. That's who he is. We'll get to that later. And by later, I mean right now. The second minigame is called Take Cake to the Children, where you play as Freddy. In a very small room. It looks like it's much smaller than the previous minigame, so it could be the first location we've been hearing so much about. As you feed children cake, you see in the background a child is crying outside until this same purple man drives up in a purple car and stabs them. We have fun here. Looks like this could be us witnessing one of the murders, maybe even the first murder. More on that later. Keep that in your mind, it's going to become important very soon. And by very soon, I mean now. In the third minigame, Foxy Go Go Go, you will play as Foxy, yeah. And once again, you're running through the pizzeria, helping out children, and the third time you come through, the kids are all dead. So that's fun. And Purple Guy is standing in the corner grinning like a maniac. So it looks like possibly all of the children could have been murdered at the same time. So Purple Guy is very efficient. And the final minigame, which is one that starts connecting the dots, Give Gifts, Give Life, where the puppet, again, very important, comes across 4 slumped over bodies. 4, not 5. Keep that in your mind. the puppet goes to each of the bodies and places one of the animatronic heads onto those bodies. At the very end, as it goes back to the middle, for a split second, you can see one final body, a fifth one, in the middle of the screen before Golden Freddy's head jumps out at you. So what does this mean? Well, back in the Take Cake to the Children minigame, we see one child murdered, and in the next one, we see the remaining ones murdered. This seems to suggest that the puppet was the first one, just like here, the children are all in a one group and the puppet is helping them to come alive. The puppet looks to be the first one killed, and now it's helping the others come to life as well. So it looks like the puppet could be the ringleader of all of this, the one behind this quest to, supposedly, stop the killer. Okay, so as a quick recap, we now know roughly when this game takes place before the first one. We now know why these animatronics are possessed, how that happened. We know the backstory of most of them now, if you think about it. The main animatronics, the puppet. And as for the smaller ones, I'm sure you're wondering, like, what's up with them, like Balloon Boy and stuff. Don't think too much about it, they're just side characters. One thing that'll happen later on in this series is there will be a couple side characters who, they don't get a specific backstory, it isn't explained why they're hostile towards you. What I assume for smaller characters like Balloon Boy, who aren't possessed probably, is that they just, like Phone Guy says, their criminal database sees you as a criminal, which, again, if you're wondering why they see you as a criminal, we will get to that. It's not just because they're going haywire or something, there is a reason for why they think you are the killer, which we're going to get to soon. While I can say that we can't exactly solve that in this very video, it'll be explained later on in future games, we can figure out a lot about the killer already. And I think that'll be kind of our last main thing to talk about before we kind of wrap this first section of the video up. So what do we know about this killer? I'm going to take this from the Freddy Files, which is a guidebook for the series, which covers things really nicely, and it put together some really nice notes here. I figured I would use them, but I figured I'd credit it so you guys know to check here for more. This purple guy seems to be associated with the restaurant. It looks like he could be wearing a badge on his shirt, or his flesh. I mean, it's kind of hard to tell. He seems to know how to tamper with the animatronics and how they work, because on night 4 you're told that someone may have tampered with the animatronics' facial recognition systems, which also could explain why the animatronics are attacking you, even though you probably didn't kill those kids. But there could be another reason, and I'll get to that. Also in the phone calls on night 5, Phone Guy says that the building is on lockdown, no one is allowed in or out, especially concerning any previous employees, which further cements the idea that Purple Guy did work here, and seems to know how these robots work. Also from the phone calls, see, I told you they'd be much more important in this game than in the first one. In the first one, they weren't that important. They were a lot of red herrings, but in this game, they really help us piece together things. On night 6, Phone Guy tells you that someone used one of the suits in the back. One of the spare suits, one of the broken down ones possibly, a yellow one. At first it seems this could be Chica, but that's not the case, and we'll get to that in the next game. So while we don't know much about this purple guy yet, we know a lot more about him than we did. He probably worked at one of these locations, and could presumably even be one of the night guards we've seen so far. We don't know. And we know a lot about the origin story of the kids and these animatronics and why they're attacking you. That's a lot of questions answered. We know who the puppet is. We don't care about Balloon Boy and never will. Alright, so now we're going to be moving into the second part of the video, the one for older fans. If you're a newer fan, I recommend you don't come here until you're a little bit more experienced with this series. In this part, we're going to be talking about a little bit more about some of the things we didn't exactly mention in this video, much more hidden, unsolved mysteries, and we will be going into stuff like Shadow Bonnie and Shadow Freddy, which I didn't talk about in the main part of the video. So I mentioned in the first part of the video that probably the reason these animatronics are attacking you is because, as Phone Guy says, someone messed with their facial recognition systems. But one other interesting theory, and we don't really have a full answer for this, is that they could see you as the killer. If you have been a fan of this series for a while, you know that you play as Michael Afton in these games, the son of the killer. If you're still watching this and you're a new fan, I warned you, guys. And that you look very similar to your father, which is why these animatronics could be attacking you. Or it could be that, combined with their facial recognition tampering stuff. The only problem I could see with the fact that you being Michael Afton is that in this place in the timeline, he would be probably like a teenager. And it would be around the time where, it would be about 4 years after the time where the bite of 83 happened, so I doubt he would really want to go in one of these pizzerias. I doubt he would want to be a security guard here. About 10 years later is when he starts investigating the things that happen around here, and becomes a security guard at FNAF 1's location and sister locations. One thing I've always wondered is why the Freddy head doesn't work on Foxy. Pymations made an animation where they make fun of this little feature. It's something that I've always kind of wondered. Foxy's always been kind of the odd one out, which has never been explained. I don't have much to say about that. It's just something to chew on. So if you guys have any ideas about that, let me know for sure. It's something that I've always kind of wondered. I just figured I'd mention it, bring it to mind, you know. What I find really confusing is the fact that this game arguably also takes place before Sister Location does. Sister Location takes place after FNAF 3, and FNAF 3 takes place after this. It just doesn't really make sense because Mangle is seemingly a withered version of Funtime Foxy, and Funtime Foxy in Sister Location is perfectly fine. I suppose Mangle could have been repaired, like the withered animatronics are repaired, but why would they want to? Mangle has always been so much more fragile than the others, and they just kind of, it is the employees gave up on it. It could still have been repaired, probably, but I doubt it. Or maybe they're just entirely different things. Maybe Funtime Foxy and Mangle are just completely different. Now, in the first part of the video, I didn't mention the explanation for Shadow Bonnie and Shadow Freddy for the new fans, because I'll save that for later videos. It's a bit harder to explain when we only have 2 games so far. But it seems like Scott also hasn't given us an explanation for this yet. My theory is that Shadow Bonnie and Shadow Freddy have to do with agony. In case you don't know, into the Fazbear Fright books, agony is... You can go there for a really in-depth explanation for it, but agony is basically what makes haunted objects. If something has a high concentration of agony, it will act, well, bad. And it can even create its own creatures, its own paranormal beasts of some sort. I'm thinking Shadow Bonnie and Shadow Freddy could be high concentrations of agony. Shadow Bonnie could be the agony from William Afton's murders, all gathered up into the representation of a bunny. Although Shadow Bonnie is Toy Bonnie, which William Afton used a Spring Bonnie suit to kill kids, that gets a bit iffy. But again, it's just an idea. It's just a theory. And Shadow Freddy could be from the bite of 83, since he looks a lot like Golden Freddy, Spring Freddy. I don't know, just an idea. We really don't have a solid explanation for that. One cool thing that's been mentioned, and the last thing I'd like to talk about for this section of the video, is the 8-bit minigames. These have always been filled with such interesting details, and in this one, what you'll notice is that the pizzeria shape in each of these minigames is a bit different. One represents the FNAF 2 map, one looks similar to the FNAF 1 map, and one actually looks like, it's very small. One room, it could be Fredbear's Family Diner, or the Freddy's location that was before this that we've never seen. I'm not sure about that. It's probably not Fredbear's because Brown Freddy is there, not Yellow Freddy and Yellow Bonnie, so I doubt that it's Fredbear's, but it could easily be the Freddy's location before this. Something to think about. It's an interesting detail that one of them looks exactly like the FNAF 2 map, and none of the others do. Definitely probably means something. It's hard to say. Anyway, that's all I'd like to talk about for now. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you in the next one where we're going to be talking about FNAF 3. Some people have been asking me if I'm going to also cover the books as well, and FNAF World. It depends if I have enough material for it. If I cover the books, it'll likely all be every book in one video. But we'll see about that. We'll see how long it stretches out for. These videos are already long enough as it is. It kind of depends how things are going to go. I'm not quite sure yet. But yeah, that's all I'd like to talk about for now. If you're new here, subscribe. Oh, and like the video. Yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.